ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We shall continue on our journey of Mundaka Upanishad, Mundak 3, part 1. Today we shall take the last three mantras of part 1 of Mundak 3. As we know, in the last session, we discussed in detail the meaning of suksham and what is dur and what is closed by. So suksham, basically we understood that it does not mean with the size. It means that it should be, all pervasive. It should penetrate everything. Like Akash is suksham, but Vayu is less suksham. And then we take fire is less suksham, and then water is less suksham, and then earth is even less suksham. So as the qualities increase, then the subtleness, the sukshamness, that starts reducing. Like in this comparison, Akash only has one quality, that is of sound. But then the air has two qualities, quality of touch and quality of sound. And the fire has three qualities, the quality of light, touch and sound, all the three. So as the qualities increase, the sukshamness reduces. So the suksham is the one which has the real suksham, the sukshamtar is the one which has no qualities at all. Because then only it can pervade everything else in the universe. And that is what Paramatma is. Paramatma has no qualities of any nature. तभी उनको बोलते हैं निर्गुण. In English, in Hindi, Sanskrit, we call nirgun, nirakar. So that is what we understood by suksham. And also by distance. Distance is not only physical, but it is also the distance of knowledge. In fact, it's more of the distance of knowledge, because if somebody doesn't have enough knowledge, then the darkness prevails, and even the thing which is lying very close to him is also very far. So the distance here is actually controlled by the degree of knowledge. So now we will continue on the next verse, that is mantra number 8, 9 and 10, the three mantras. Now mantra 8, ne chakshusha grahete napi vacha, nanya devastapa karmanava. That at this point, at that point where the Supreme resides, the eyes cannot reach there, the watch, the speech cannot reach there. And all other sense organs also cannot reach there. Neither tap nor actions, karmana, can reach there. Now, this puts us in a very difficult situation, that we cannot grasp that by any of the sense organs. Because if something is nirgun, obviously it cannot be grasped by sense organs. Only things which have qualities can be grasped by sense organs. Anything without any quality can never be grasped by sense organs. Sense organs are designed to grasp certain things. Like we cannot hear from our eyes, we can only see with our eyes. The eyes are designed to see things. They can see the color, they can see the size, they can see the shape, they can see the dimension. But similarly, the ears cannot do that function of eyes. So each sense organ is designed to grasp certain qualities. If there are no qualities, then obviously the eyes cannot grasp. And if you cannot grasp, then how can you describe? Because this is a fundamental principle of our functioning of our body, that the sense organs give the input to the mind, and then mind directs the concerned sense of action to act. Now, if the sense organs are not able to grasp certain thing, obviously the mind cannot give any direction to any of the senses of action. And that is how our speech cannot describe the Supreme. So this is how the body functions, and we have to accept that, the scientific side of functioning of the body. So this is here the word there has been used, only one sense of action and one sense of perception has been used. And then the word has been used that none of the other devtas. Devta is also a reference to the sense organs, because all the sense organs have been called as devtas. Nasika devta, aankh devta, kan devta. It is because these have divine qualities especially given to these organs by the Supreme. And that is why they are called devta. In fact, in most of the Upanishads, you will find this word. Devta is also referring to the sense organs, not only the organs of perception, but also organ of action. So we cannot grasp, that is absolutely correct, and therefore we should not try to grasp the Supreme through our sense organs. Then it says tap and karma also cannot help you there. Now we saw in the previous verse number, I think, verse number 4 and 5, we saw that Satyam, Tap, Brahmacharya and Samyak Gyan, they are helpful. But here it says that the Tap cannot help in that process. Tap basically means that you pass through a very, difficult circumstance. Like some people do unsan, 10 days of unsan. Some people don't speak for 10 days. Some people, do not eat a particular variety of, grain. Now, all these are part of the tap. Some people just sit in meditation for hours. So all these are tap. So the tap gives you certain qualities. They improve your sense perceptions. They improve your heart. They purify your heart. But they do not make you understand the Supreme directly. But tap certainly purifies your heart to some extent, because when you pass through, very arduous, very difficult circumstances, you learn and you improve. So that improvement is there in our, what we call purity of heart. But it cannot, help you in reaching the Supreme. Similarly, the karma accept the karma which are done without attachment, without the feeling of doership. Those karmas are considered essential, but they don't necessarily lead you to the Supreme. They help you in the process, but not necessarily lead you to the Supreme. So this is what the first part of mantra number 8 says. Now, what actually helps you in reaching there? Now, this is what the second part of this mantra tells us. Jnana prasaden visuddha sattva. These are the two very important words. Jnana prasaden visuddha tattva. The most important thing is that knowledge, jnana, samyak jnana, which was talked about earlier. Jnana ka prasad, that you should acquire knowledge. You should remove the darkness. The darkness will automatically be removed once you acquire knowledge. Like when the lamp reaches a particular point, the darkness automatically disappears. Similarly, Jnana Prasaden is the one which removes that darkness automatically. So how do you attain Jnana Prasaden? For that, you have to do Visuddha Tattva, Visuddha Sattva. Visuddha Sattva is that you have to purify your antakaran, your inner self you have to purify. Now, what is that antakaran? Antakaran consists of three things. That is your mind, your intellect, and your ego. Some people say it also has a part of chit, that is the upper part of the Atma. It is not the Atma itself, but the part which is associated with Atma. So you can take it four or three as you like. But fundamentally, it is the mind, it is the intellect, and it is the ego. How do you purify that? So ego, we have already discussed this in the past. It has come in many mantras. We have to get rid of ego. Ego is the biggest hurdle in this entire process. So that we have to abandon. Usko to visarjit karna padega ego ko to. That I am only an instrument in this entire big universe. I am not running it. I am not capable of running anything. I have been sent here to discharge certain functions and I do that. That should be the approach in life. I accept the rest as it comes. So that should be the approach in life. I am not the really doer of anything. I've been just sent here. I had no control when I was sent here. I didn't come here by my desire. I will leave without my desire. If whether I want or not, when I have to leave, I leave. And I grow. I, for example, cannot control and remain child all my life. I become young, I become old, and I become very old. All that automatically happens to me. I have no control even on my own self. How can I control anything else? So this is what we have to understand. We have to have that feeling to, do away entirely with the ego process. Then, how do you regulate mind and intellect? Now, this is very interesting. In fact, this has been explained in, by certain, commentators in very great detail, and they have used the ancient scriptures to explain it. You see, normally we are all the time dominated. Our mind and intellect is dominated by worldly affairs. What is happening there? For example, if you are a member of a political party, then you have attachment of that party. If you are a member of an industry, you have attachment of that industry. When you are a member of neighborhood, you have attachment of that neighborhood. You're a member of an institution, you have attachment of that institution. You are a member of a family, you have attachment of that family. So these attachments are dominating our day-to-day life. And this is called rag and dvesh. Either they, attract you, or they give you dvesh, the feeling of hatred. If the things don't happen according to your wishes, then you develop hatred. If they happens according to your wishes, then you become more attached. And then you become greedy also in the process. So rag and dvesh, these are constant companion of our mind and intellect. If you sit down in the evening and think for 5 minutes quietly and analyze the day's activities, you would realize that you were dominated by this, attachment of mind and intellect to certain activities. And those activities arose because of your association with certain institutions, certain bodies, certain individuals, certain situations, certain places. All those attachments gave you that rag and dvesh, which you, experience throughout the day. Now, this is what actually happens to every one of us. I was debating it myself the other day, that how my day, I'm governed by these rag and dvesh. Yes, I'm still governed by rag and dvesh to a great extent. But then you have to slowly realize this fact and detach yourself from that process and bring your mind and intellect closer to the Supreme, that this worldly activities will continue. They have their own course. I have no control over those activities. And I should bring myself closer to the Supreme Force, which has sent me to this universe, which is the governing force of my life, which is the governing force of all the lives which exist in this universe, and which is the governing force of all that is visible, tangible in this universe. So once we start thinking and in that direction, then slowly, slowly the improvement happens. And that is what has been called as Bahar Bhitar ki Suddhi. In Gita, this word has come very clearly, कि बाहर और भीतर दोनों की शुद्धि, that outside you should clean yourself, then the inner self will start cleaning. Like when you are busy putting input from social media and WhatsApp and all these TV channels every day in your mind, then you cannot get rid of those attachments and hatreds. That's very, very difficult. So you have to reduce that input. You have to remain confined to the essentials which are needed for living a life in this world. So we remain attached to those essentials and then discard the rest of it. Then if our inputs in the mind and intellect reduce, then slowly, slowly our mind and intellect will get attachment to the Supreme. Or we can do it other way around. That if you start attaching yourself more and more to the Supreme, through whatever means, through knowledge or through devotion, then slowly, slowly your attachment to the world will reduce. So one can adopt whatever method is, but ultimately the mind and intellect have to become pure. That is what this mantra is telling us. And once we are able to attain that purity, once the mind and intellect are detached from worldly actions which are taking place continuously, then only we can concentrate on the Supreme and are able to realize the Supreme. So this is what it says, that pashyate niskalk dhyaman, that once you are able to do this, then you will be able to realize the Supreme. You will be able to see Him. Paschate means you will be able to realize Him, to see Him, to feel Him inside. So this is what it says, that the sense organs, whether action or of perception, and tap and karma, they will not help in this process, but they do help in purification of our inner self. But the inner self has to be purified through gradual detachment from the worldly affairs. And once we are able to achieve that, then we can reach the Supreme. Or we give more and more attention to the Supreme, and we develop a relationship of love with the Supreme, then slowly, slowly our detachment to the world will go down. So these are the two methods which they are talking about here, Gyan Prasaden and Visuddha Sattva. These are the two major instruments after the four instruments we discussed earlier. That is the Satyam, Tap, Brahmacharya and Samyak Gyan. Now here he has come to the two more specific instruments. This is Gyan Prasad and Visuddhikaran of the inner self, Antakaran. So this is what this mantra tells us, and this is a very practical suggestion. If we follow this suggestion, I think slowly, slowly we can improve. It's not a process of overnight improvement, but slowly, slowly we can travel in that direction. Our journey can start detachment from the worldly affairs and more alignment to the Supreme, to the the controller of this universe. Now it goes a little bit more in detail on this issue in mantra number 9. It says, Eshor Gunatma Tejasa Veditavyo Yasmin Prana Panchada Samvidesh. Yasmin, जिसमें Panchada, that is the five, pranic energies are located. Samvivesh means in which they are located. So in which the five pranic energies are located, in which means the supreme consciousness, in which the five pranic energies are located. So the five pranic energies, which are, we know, the main pran, the saman pran, the apan pran, the udan pran, and the vyan pran. All these five energies which regulate our body system, they are actually governed again by the same supreme consciousness. So they are located in that consciousness. Es anu atma tejsa devitya prajanam sarvam chittam, that in that small little atom, the small little suksham, the atma or Paramatma, or that consciousness, that nirgun consciousness, in that your chit, your mind, your intellect, they are also located in that. Usse otprot, the word which has been used here is that otam, otprot, like koi cheez ke upar pani nikal gaya, to pani se otprot ho gaya. Similarly, it is saying that five pranic energies and also the mind, intellect, and the chit, they are also dominated and located in the same, supreme consciousness. They are governed by the same supreme consciousness. So he is again reiterating, the Rishi is reiterating what it said earlier, that everything in this body is connected to that axis which is inside in our heart, and every part of the body is connected to that axis, and that is how the body operates, because of that connection to the axis. So here is explaining these, some of the important organs, that is five pranic energies, and the mind, the intellect, and the chit, they saying that it is also completely oth-proth in that supreme consciousness. And you are able to see this fact only when yasmin visuddhe, only when you are able to purify your inner self. Again, the same word has come. Atma vibhavati. Then you can actually feel the what you call the supreme competence of the Atma. That Atma is so powerful. Then only you can feel it. So here again, it is reference to the body system, how the body system is subservient to or operated by the supreme consciousness. Either the whole body system, we can say, operated by that supreme consciousness, or is subservient to that supreme consciousness, because once that consciousness leaves, all those systems collapse and they start, stop their functioning. So this is what it says again, explaining that the entire body system is dependent on that supreme consciousness alone, including the breathing system which regulates our body, the pranic energy which regulates all our, inner chaitanya in the body. So this is what we have to understand, that all this is connected, these body systems are connected and regulated by the supreme consciousness, and we are able to see that supreme consciousness only by purification of our inner self. So this yasmin visuddhi, we have to विशुद्ध, उनको शुद्ध करना पड़ेगा inner self को, then only we are able to feel it. And then we come to the last mantra of this part, Mundak 3, section 1. Ye lokam mansa samvibhati visuddha sattva kamyate yanscha kaman. Visuddha sattva has been repeated 3 times. It was in mantra 8, in 9, and again in 10. It says that you have to purify your inner self. Without that, it is not possible to understand the Supreme. And purification of Supreme, the inner self, is possible only through detachment to worldly affairs, detachment from, what we call moh and shock. That is, you have attachment, then it is moh, it is, attracting you. And once that attachment gives you wrong result, then you have shock, you have pain. So these 2 things are very, very important. We have to get rid of that. And then lokam mansa samvivati. Samvibhati means you have to keep thinking on this. This is another method. If you keep thinking about the functioning of your inner instrument, then slowly you will realize the significance of the consciousness governing this entire instrument. So slowly you have to keep thinking about it. That is another, way of purifying the inner self. Keep thinking, keep meditating on it all the time. And then, if you do not do that, if you fail to that, then you will get again into yan kaman kamyate. Then you will have desire to have, worldly comforts. And you will again get into the world again. Then you cannot get out of those, that what you call maya jal, that net of maya. You cannot, because you will again get into that maya jal if you are not able to meditate on this particular issue of purifying your inner self. And then again you will try to work for those comforts which you like to have in life. So this happens to each one of us. For a while we go to the spiritual path, then again we get into the worldly path. And we want to have those comforts which we feel are good for us. And then again you try to, these comforts are no good. They are not giving us, the eternal happiness. Then again you go to the spiritual path. So this dilemma has been explained here. That if you do not meditate on that constantly, on purification of your inner self, then you will get into the world again and again, and you will look for those worldly comforts, and you will deviate from the path. And that is why it says that Atma Jnanam Archiyate, that you have to, Archiyate means puja archana karna. Atma Jnanam, that to acquire self-knowledge, we have to take it as, as our objective of life, and we have to worship it. So we have to keep meditating on it all the time. Like you go to the temple and you do puja archana. Similarly, we have to keep meditating on the functioning of our body system and start realizing that how the Supreme Consciousness is governing our pranic energy, governing our, all other energies, including mind, intellect, and all the sense organs. And how we can realize that consciousness in ourselves. If we deviate from that part slightly, then again we will get plunged into the world and we will look for the comfort. So It is saying, it is giving us a precaution that do not deviate from that path. And that is why in the past, they have said that Nityam, you have to do this practice every day. It is not once, practice, it's not intermittent practice. It has to be done continuously. Then only we can actually realize the self. So this is what, these mantras are telling us. So finally, just to recapture the last essence of the last 4 or 5 mantras, is that we have to follow the path of the truth. In that path, if we have to suffer, we should suffer. We have to follow a well-regulated life, that is brahmacharya. We have to acquire samyak jnana. And then by acquiring that jnana, we have to purify our inner self. The inner self includes our mind, our intellect, our ego, and our chit. And the ego has to be discarded by realizing that I am not the doer. I have been sent to this world. I was not asked when I was sent here. I was not asked when I was a child. I was not asked when I became young. I was not asked when I became old. I will not be asked when I want to die. All these things are automatically happening by some unknown force, and that unknown force is governing my life. That force is also governing my pranic energy. That force is also governing my mental and intellectual abilities. And therefore, if I can try and realize that force, if I can reach and understand that force, that should be my mission in the life. And once we meditate on that mission constantly, then slowly, we can reach in that direction. This is what these mantras are telling us. So, we started with one question from Sonak Rishi, that what is that one thing which, if we know everything else is known, so this is one thing which we should know. And once we know that, then everything else is known. That is what Rishi Angira has been telling all through this Upanishad. Thank you very much. And we shall start the part 2 of, or the last section of Mundaka Upanishad when I come back from Mumbai. Not next week, but a week after that. Thank you.